All right, it is 6 o'clock on November 19th. I'd like to call the Concord School Committee to order. And we're gonna have to call ourselves in because we have Sandeep is remote. So her check is present.
Marana present.
Bishardi present.
Rankin present.
Williams present.
Okay, we have a quorum.
Recording. It looks like Aisha's on too.
Oh, good, okay.
Yes, hello, everybody.
Hey, how's it going? Sorry, I missed you.
No worries.
All right, the first order of business is to have Justin and some other folks from CMS come and talk about student-led conferences.
So just a little context while they're coming in, we did a pilot of this last year with the 8th grade. This year, the whole building participated, and so this isn't an agenda item to debrief how it went. I mean, it's new, but it's to celebrate the work that went into it. So Justin's gonna take it from there, and we're excited to see everybody tonight. Welcome.
We can probably start off by just introducing ourselves. We're here as a group, and I think this is a very unique opportunity. One, you're checking in on a school improvement plan goal that all of you were privy to. And two, I don't know how many opportunities you have for showcasing something that involved both parents and teachers as partners, which I think is pretty unique. You all know me. I'm gonna start over here.
Hi, my name is Dominique Bellegarde. I have 4 children. Well, actually, I had 4 children in the district. Now I have 3. They all in each grade, so high school, middle school, and elementary. So, and this is my son to introduce.
Great.
My name's Gregory, and I'm in 8th grade.
Hi, Jen Cody. I have twins in 6th grade, and I am also an 8th grade English teacher, and I'm also the English department head, and I'm also the one of the home-based teacher leaders.
I'm Jackson. I'm in 6th grade. My name is Eva, and I'm in 8th grade.
Hi, I'm Laura Smith. I'm a parent.
And I'm Matt, and I'm if you have questions, anything from last year's pilot that we received tremendous feedback and data from what is now your 9th grade parents, students, and faculty. Anything about the model, anything
Could we hear
about
some of
their
what
experience?
each participant did pre-meeting and at the meeting?
Definitely,
Okay,
yeah.
great.
And just talk about the meetings, like I only have elementary school kids, so I'm
Yeah.
excited to hear how this works.
Sure. So does one of the students wanna talk about, this work for the students and their faculty home-based advisor started in early September. So the traditional model of conferences, and I can speak about being 10 years of 7th grade English teacher, I prepped for my conferences with my parents maybe the day before, certainly the morning of. I did not spend 2-3 months prepping for my conferences like I have done the last 2 years as a home-based advisor at the middle school. But I think we want to hear from the kids as far as their experience building their portfolios. Where do you want to start?
There's a fun thing. You come through finding pictures, a bunch of projects you've done, putting them into your slides, and going into your Aspen checking for things, grades and stuff that you're proud of.
It helped you kind of learn stuff about you academically that you didn't know, and so you could work better in the classroom.
Well, we did it as a home base, so you could also kind of learn about other people in your home base because you would do the same slides as them.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So how does it work? So you sit down with your parents and you talk through your progress at school at a high level?
So the actual conference date?
Yeah.
Sure. So what did the conference date look like? I will quickly just share the old model.
Okay.
The old model, you know, the metaphor we use is speed dating. At the secondary level, you go around, you have between 10 and 12 7-minute conferences. That if you're lucky enough to hop on the scheduling portal at the exact moment it opens, we're talking Taylor Swift type of pressure here, then you could maybe book back to back to back to back 12 times. If you're not on the portal, this is the old model, you're not on the portal right as it opens, you might be spending the entire day at the middle school and just waiting for these conferences that might be spaced out. Or, unfortunately, we were in the old model closing out a lot of parents and not having conferences with all their teachers. That was the old model, where a parent would walk in and spend upwards of 2 hours in the middle school, spending 7 minutes learning from their kids, a world language teacher, PE teacher, art teacher, English teacher. That was last year for 6th and 7th. Last year for 8th, and this year 6th, 7th, and 8th. What did last Monday, what did last Monday look like?
So for me, I was like, I did get the emails, I clicked on the information, but it's kind of like I forgot. And then when I came into the classroom and I was like, wow, I don't have to sign in with any other person? It was like, no, because it was like, oh, you signed in the wrong data, and I was okay. And then I came in, I walked, and I was like, all you see is a screen, teacher on one side, and then I see my son go sit like across from me, and I was like, okay, and in my head I was like, oh, this is nice. And then in some way he was presenting himself, and I was like, wow, this is good. So I implement those things in my household because I'm like, hey, you're in school, you're learning all this, I gotta get you ready for your future, how can I do that? So I said, I'll give them random topics, and I said, go do a slide and present. They're like, oh, I don't want to, and I'm like, go do it. And when they do it, you see they're confident. And so when I seen this, and he was just telling me about his highs and his lows, he still had the same demeanor of like, this is what I did, this is what I'm presenting. And it was just like, nice, I'm glad you guys got it. It was like, I'm glad you guys got the memo, because I was like, this is even better, because then they're more apt to come into a meeting like this and just be ready to collaborate and do the work and not be fearful, but be confident and know what they can do and what they can't do. And for me, I was like, I like this. So for me, it was really nice to hear him speak, because sometimes you don't get to hear him talk about them or, you know, however the dialogue. So for me, it was a great introduction to how they're doing it and the teacher's prompting, but it was really nice. And you left like, all right, dude, good.
You know, we had parents walking in taking selfies with the kids. And there are the moments where you're like, okay, we arrived,
Yeah.
you know, and for parents on conference day, when their kid traditionally was home alone and they were walking in as the parent, you know, to see that partner in an age where the kids are actually strong-arming their parents away is pretty powerful. And just to give you the pragmatic of it, it was 30 minutes instead of that 7 minutes. 30 minutes was the home-based advisor, the parent or parents and guardians, and then the student as well. You wanna just share a little bit of your experience?
Yeah, well, having experienced both models, you know, this year was much more meaningful, and it really is putting the student at the center of their learning, and I think causing them to be much more reflective about themselves, strengths, but also growing edges. And we're lucky because Eva still talks to us. And at dinner, she still tells us, you know, what she does at school. And yet it was very different when she had her presentation and she was speaking. You know, it had a different dynamic to it, which I think was really, really powerful.
Yeah, I'd just echo everything that has been said. It always felt weird to go to a conference and talk about Eva without her being present, right? And because she's the reason that I'm there. And so having her in the room with us, with her teachers, talking about the work that they're doing, it was wonderful. We love to see it extend into her high school years.
We've actually talked about that. Maybe like a 6-8 portfolio that they track over the course of time. We can talk more. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think it takes it from a conference day to part of the learning process and part of the learning experience. Because that's the thing, we're sitting there talking about kids, they need to be there as part of the conversation. And there's a lot of like, well, can 6th graders do that? We underestimate our kids. They're capable of a lot more than we give them credit for. Exhibit A, like he did a fabulous job listening to him talk about what he was proud about that he'd done so far. And I have insight into the middle school that other people don't, right? I'm exposed to so much that other parents aren't. Lucky your child's talking to you still. But the point being, you know, there's still things that I miss. So really to be able to see that, and his home-based coach is Tommy Delacondro, watching him engage with Mr. Delacondro about what he's done, and Mr. Delacondro, oh my God, tell her about that thing you did in science that we worked on, you know? It's nice because it takes it, which is unique for me, it's such a parent, school, collaborative, right? We're all in this together. Mr. D and I working with Jackson. What are the things that you're proud of? What have you done well? Where do you want to grow? And like having a really authentic conversation with his voice there.
Very cool. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
No question, but can I chime in with so my daughter is in 6th grade. Admittedly, I was kind of skeptical of the idea of her leading her own conference, but you know, it's not something that even entered my imagination. But you know, to see them, at least my kid, step up confidently into the driver's seat of her own learning, the pride that she had presenting work, and then the self-reflection, I got more from that than any test course on Aspen. So thank you. Whatever this idea originated, it's great.
Yeah, it's worth noting, like, I wanna give Justin credit, but it's an innovative, research-based idea that's out there. And I'm excited he grabbed it, but there is evidence to support what it does for kids. So I think we're finding that middle ground of innovative, but not just wildly innovative. And I think there's lots of schools that have wish lists to get to this, and actualizing that can be really different. So kudos to the middle school. I mean, actualizing something of this type of change in a organized fashion is really hard, so.
One more question for the kids. When can you review your parents? I'm just joking.
Question for the administrators. There was, I guess, conversation about bringing this to the high school.
The high school doesn't even.
No.
No, we've been talking about it, yeah.
At the middle school, some of the teachers have talked about what would it look like, you know, if, so he does this at the 6th grade level, he would find a platform that then he does it again in 7th and 8th, and we show the progress. Like particularly as an 8th grade teacher, I always hear from the counselors, oh, you didn't see this kid in 6th grade, the growth that they've made, how much they've come, and I'm like, I didn't, but get to see that. So if we could create something that would follow the students through their middle school experience.
Yeah, the first step is to share with the high school, which just hasn't happened yet, and kudos to the CMS faculty, because a lot of this came from all of you. So I think building what the capability is and capacity is part of the discussion.
Is there evidence for such a model going forward?
I believe it's proven to work with secondary overall.
Yeah. You know, thank you for serving this on a platter for me. A lot of the 9th grade academy was inspired by CMS, and what we inspired, I feel strongly, in the 6th grade model. And I just wanna thank this group for putting the kids at the center, you know, because too often we're finding ourselves reflecting on this model, and we're talking about the parent perspective, what their experience was, which is meaningful and important. The teacher perspective, and what that experience was, which is important. And I guess I'll just pause and say, having done both models, being previously a 7th grade English teacher, having like 37 straight 7-minute conferences, when parents loop back to me and say, I just, you know, what you recommended, I'm like, I was like, okay, I didn't remember it, you know? So I think the meaningful connection of every staff just having the 8 or 9 30-minute conferences versus the 37 7-minute conferences is something that I think we wanna do more reflecting on. Thank you for allowing us
Yeah,
this opportunity.
thank you all for
Thanks for
coming.
coming. I know it's late. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Superintendent and chairs update. Do you wanna start?
Sure, thank you. I wanted to just highlight a few things and I'm gonna loop into the high school just a little because a couple things happened that were just so powerful, I think it's worth sharing here even, and we'll sure Carlisle hears as well. We did launch our community reading opportunity at the elementary schools the other day at Willard. It was really kind of magical. People came in and it was a mix of community members, things I didn't even think of, parents of kids at the high school who had gone to Willard and just wanted to come back and be part of the community again. It's just everybody was so excited to be there. We have tomorrow at Alcott and Friday at Thoreau. Likely it will become something we offer a couple of times a year. It actually started a little smaller than we thought, but it probably turned out to be a good thing. We also selected books from the EL program for people to read to the kids, which meant there had been some vetting and purpose to the text that led some messaging and some nice dialogue. I got to read, so that was great, and we'll keep you posted, but it's been a really good start. I just wanna mention the DIB panel at the high school real quickly, even though it's not a high school meeting. That's a program we spend a lot of time prepping for and working with students and faculty who are gonna participate and share their experiences as being a member of the Jewish community or the LGBTQ community or whatever they feel they might be interested in sharing. Again, it was another really powerful session. We did have a Jewish student there for the first time, which I thought actualized all the things we've been talking about. And you know, I don't know that many schools have faith in their students to create a safe environment for that level of vulnerability and put the entire student body over 2 assemblies in front of everyone. It was really powerful. And I think it's interesting, we often hear from the kids that are presenting that they were inspired by the program the year before. And we're seeing different groups be represented. MECO still certainly, which is super important, that perspective stays front and center, but other ethnicities as well. One of the students who led the Diwali work on the previous weekend was, it's really magical. We purposely don't record it because it feels so intimate, but it's a moment we all leave with. And Brian Miller shared his experience as a gay man and gay student of their age, and just, I think, really modeled for them what we're trying to build. So facing history, we did our 3rd round of anti-Semitism training with staff. 2nd really with the middle school. We're at the high school after the holiday. And they are now going to start to work with social studies teachers across the secondary level and English teachers, both of whom teach the Holocaust either as history or through literature. And they're gonna be supporting them in what that looks and how to maximize the benefit of that as much as possible. So I think we're feeling really good about that work. We're planning a series of evening events for the community at large. Facing history will be one of them. We're so moved by it, had such incredible feedback from the staff on the history of anti-Semitism that we actually want to offer it to the community. We're also working on an LGBTQ session and then a more diverse, still a work in progress, bias and hate in general. So more to come on that. We've reached out to a number of the groups in town, the DEI Commission, Human Rights Council, Concord Carlisle Against Anti-Semitism, a number, both rabbis, and then really trying to co-sponsor so that the communication goes out really widely. We don't have dates yet, that's the next piece to come. And then the last piece, which is just fresh this afternoon, and I know Tracy was there, the annual League of Women Voters Civics Showcase at the 8th grade. The kids all do their project, identify their problem, do their research, propose a solution. it was just another afternoon of just being so inspired by young people and the things they choose. One of them said, I loved it because I got to choose what I care about, right? That's it in a nutshell. And then the way they propose it and work through it, and just really great. Again, another community event, the league had publicized it. We had a lot of outside the parent circle as well as parents there. So really nice, really lovely afternoon. So.
I still have 2 of my civics projects in my house.
Wow.
Despite my wife asking me every year to throw them away.
Yeah. They're digital now, so.
They're much different.
easier
Mine
to
are made out of
manage.
wood.
Of course. Well, we're gonna wanna hear more about that, Andrew, but.
Cool.
So thank you.
I had 2 quick updates and I know you had a couple.
Actually, I had a question, Dr. Hunter, you brought up the DEIB assembly at the high school.
Yeah.
Any comment, I know it's a high school related, any comment on the racist white power symbology that was in the graffiti in the bathroom occurring right on the heels of the DEIB assembly?
Yeah, other than disappointment, I don't really have any other comment. There's student things attached to that I can't share, but
Not
certainly we're
necessarily.
disappointed. Yeah.
Any thoughts, if you could help us think through how that, in light of everything that we've been working toward, how that could occur in that time frame, sort of immediately afterward?
I think that's a separate question.
And I can't answer it without violating a student's privacy, so I'm.
Not asking to, just thoughts on what the administration, what the faculty thinks about the timing, and not asking you to violate any confidence, it's just your understanding of where things are.
Is it being investigated by you reported to the police?
Yes, fully investigated and
Not much else to say.
yeah. Obviously, the timing's really disappointing. We also know kids do things for a lot of different reasons. And each situation's individual.
Agreed. Any insight on that with respect to the other events that have happened over the course of the year? Whether this is a one-off or part of a pattern? Just ask on the thoughts of
Unrelated, it seems.
So you don't think that it's related at all? Okay.
And I can't share more.
So I just have a question. Hello, hi.
Yeah, we can hear you.
So I just have a question related to, I know this is the, not the high school day, but I just had a question just because I've talked to medical students, and a lot of students they're very, disappointed. They're in a weird space right now. I get it's disappointing, and we can't make statements about it, but, and I don't want to take anything away from the scarecrow thing, but, we make statements every time a scarecrow is found off school property, but then we can't make a statement about like how disgusting this is and how the safety of these students of color, they don't feel safe there when there's white power symbols, in the bathrooms. I mean, as a parent, I do worry about my son's safety and about all the kids of color in the school. I mean, this is like becoming a weekly thing now, and we're not checking in with the kids that are being affected.
Aisha, did you get the statement from the principals?
Yep, I did. And I also heard that, when things are targeted to a specific student, that those kids aren't being checked in on.
I would say, I agree with Aisha's points, but I would also say that in terms of tone and timing, I would laud co-principals Miller and Stahl for their statement. It was excellent, and it certainly does demonstrate an improvement from previously. But I would, again.
I mean, I appreciate the statement. I appreciate the statement from the high school administration, but I just wonder do we have anything are we planning to go to the next step, whereas we have a DEI assembly, which is needed. We need to have these conversations, but are there any plans to have maybe an assembly with the district attorney's office and the police department to discuss what the what can happen in these situations and what the consequences are? Because I just think that just making a statement, these kids and their parents need to know what the consequences are. These are hate crimes and it's happening every week now. So I just think it needs to be addressed. I mean, I was hoping that, we would learn from the previous incidents and move forward, but we're clearly not moving forward. I mean, parents are worried about, like, is this what we just have to accept now? Or, how do we get to a place where the parents and the students feel safe?
We're all working really, really hard at that. Messaging has absolutely been said to the kids as we open school, what the consequences are and that this is not acceptable. And we will continue to message that. We're trying to also come at it from the other side to build empathy and understanding. What I am learning about some of the kids that do this, it's cries for help for other things, and I cannot say more than that, and I'm a little remiss to say even that much. So we're working it as best as we can.
But when the MECO kids are victims of these crimes, I understand being empathetic, but these are crimes. These are hate crimes, and I understand being empathetic, but there's a point where we have to put the empathy down, and these kids have to pay for what they're doing.
Oh, they are. I'm not gonna. They absolutely are. There's multi-day suspensions going out every single time. Everyone's engaged in talking with us. Families are very supportive.
We cannot debate this tonight,
Right.
so I recommend we table
And
it.
I don't want to debate it. I just want to make sure that
Aisha,
families understand.
I hear you, and
families understand. Stop! Please don't cut me off. The MECO, and you can make those faces. It's very unprofessional, but what I'm saying is that this is hurtful to the parents and to the children. When we have kids coming home, crying about it and being very emotional about it, it's just hurtful. I understand you don't understand because you don't have to look your child of color in the face and explain to them this is the world we live in now. You don't have to do that. So I understand you don't understand this, but I understand it's hurtful. It's hard for me. It's hard for me because I chose to put my son in the school system, and I continue a couple weeks ago I was called a non-resident. Now I'm called this. It's just frustrating.
We all agree with you.
I guess I would just add one point that it would be very helpful to work through things to understand, both for the committee and for the community. In the absence of a wide understanding of accountability, incidents like this continue, and we've had evidence of this going back as far as last November. So without disclosing, without breaching security, just an understanding of the process, an understanding of how accountability.
It's the same as I explained this summer. We investigate, we notify the police, we investigate, that's what's happening right now. Once we determine what's happened, we consequence according to the handbook. And we are frankly very harsh on discipline to the point where our attorney has said, I'm surprised parents aren't fighting back at you. And they would have a case because you are going to multi-day, usually 5-day suspensions for any of these acts. And that is beyond what Massachusetts law is looking for us to do right now. They want kids in school. We have said that is okay, and we are still doing multi-day suspension. So it's the same process as we talked about all summer. Any of these acts of hate, we are investigating, and we are actually, we are finding out who does things. We're not making big public statements because we can't at that point. But there's actually been very little that's not gone accounted for.
Personally speaking, from the parents that I've heard speak to me, and I think we're hearing it evidence from what Aisha is saying, it's the wide understanding of this event happened, this is the consequence, and the education that prevents them from happening. I don't think we're seeing that.
I guess I'm not sure what that looks like, given the parameters under which the law constrains us.
Yeah, we cannot debate this tonight, and I don't wanna cut it off. I'm gonna finish my update and we're gonna move to public comment.
Can we at least at some point bring this up again so we can get clarity?
We can talk about this offline. I had 2 updates quickly. One is regarding the Bruce Ruin Rail Trail connection. We got a couple emails on that over the last couple weeks, and my view on this is we had a brief discussion on it at one of our meetings. I think our committee's pretty supportive of the project. I think as chair, we're not gonna take this on ourselves. We've asked the community for a lot of money over the last couple of years. And hoping that someone else can kind of organize and put together a plan and raise funds and then bring it back to us for review and ultimate approval. So certainly supportive of the project, but just in case there's any questions, we're not gonna be taking this on ourselves. And then the second update I had was the CMLP and our solar project at the middle school. I think there were some comments made by the CMLP committee regarding partnership with us, and again, we're very supportive of that. That is a CMLP project, and in discussions with the chair today, just encouraged him to reach out to us if they have any questions as they continue making progress getting solar to the middle school. So that's what I had.
And I just had two things to add regarding committees in Concord, because they're timely, and our regional meeting isn't until December 17th. So I've been in contact with the chair of Public Works, and there is a hearing to, the amenities building has been a big discussion as to the sewer connection and all of that. And this is the regular process, and I discussed this again, the chair's breakfast this morning. It's the regular process to get an appeal, and that's what we're gonna be doing on December 10th, and it will put the sewer issue to bed. I've also talked to the chair of the CPC, and they're totally fine with that because they just want the answer to the sewer connection question. So that will happen on December 10th. CPC is meeting December 8th. Water and Sewer is December 10th. Bob and Lori and myself will go to the Water and Sewer appeal meeting. I've learned a lot about water and sewer over these past couple weeks. But it's just the regular process when anything goes above 1,000 gallons, and Bob, you can always correct me if I'm wrong on that. So we will be doing that on December 10th. And then CPC is totally fine with that. They're gonna continue to discuss the amenities building after that, but they have a lot of other projects to discuss.
That's December 3rd.
CPC. No, December 10th. 8th.
December
December
8th.
8th is CPC,
Okay.
but they're talking about all of their projects. December 10th is water and
Water and
sewer.
Okay.
And just to piggyback on the civics thing this afternoon was really great. It was watching all the students do it. And is it mandatory now? Do all students do it?
It's in the frameworks. Yeah.
Right, when my kids were there, it was like an optional assignment, so it was great to see the entire 8th grade there. And you've got your 8th grade social studies teacher there, really good community showing there, so
Yep.
Great job by the staff at CMS, really good. And the kids were just excellent.
Cool.
Great event.
All right, thank you. All right, moving on to public comment. We'll alternate between in the room and online. I have one form here in the room. And I'll just read our general statement. Public comment should be a period of 20 minutes and shall generally follow the opening of the meeting. All citizens wish to speak before the committee shall identify themselves, name and address, and shall speak for no longer than 3 minutes. And there's a lot of stuff here, but this is general public comment. So we can start with one in the room, and Kate. Yeah, come on up here.
My name is Kate Mackey. I have a 7th and 9th grader in the Concord Public Schools, which I am very happy and proud that I'm there. I'm also a board member of the Concord Scout House in Concord, and I'm here to tell you about a project that we were working on. And to be honest, I feel a little bit silly now after the conversation we just had. But our project, one of the reasons that our project is about lanterns. It's called Brighter Together. With the Concord Scout House, we're collaborating with Art for All, which is a community art organization in West Concord, and we have several other collaborators too now at this point. We are hoping to make our community brighter together by presenting a series of workshops to help folks create handmade lanterns. We'll then have a lantern parade on a Saturday in March, and it will end at the Concord Scout House, where we will enjoy hot chocolate, music, poetry, and art. We're designing this to be an inaugural event that will be perpetuated for years to come, as it is in many other communities across the country. We are particularly eager to share this information with you because we're concerned about the ways in which increasing divisiveness in our larger society is impacting our community and the young people in our schools. We envision this event as being a counterweight by focusing on the positive and creative ways that we can come together. Now, that's such a nice sentence, I had to read it. But I'm worried that some folks might think, like, you don't understand the seriousness of our problems if you're like talking about making lanterns. But at the same time, I want to present this as something that is kind of like we all are trying to do our little thing that we can do to create more the moments that we want to experience with each other. We understand it might be too late in the year, or we expect that it's too late in the school year for the schools to participate in a formal way. I'm modeling this after an event that I've experienced in Peterborough, New Hampshire, where they do go into the schools and collaborate with the art departments. I know that we can't do that this year. However, we have brainstormed ways that might be possible for the schools to get involved. One example of that is that we could provide maybe kits and instructions to some after-school clubs to make lanterns, or solicit volunteers from the high school art club or something like that. So we are planning to send you all an email with more information in weeks to come with ideas. I'm planning to send those to the PTG heads, the principals, the assistant principals, and I would love to spread the word, but we're not trying to create something that we think, we don't presume the schools are going to be involved. We want to just spread the word, and if anyone who's excited about it wants to be involved, we just want to welcome that participation. We do have funding through the 250th Executive Committee this year, which we're excited about, and we already have 10 lantern workshops that have been planned at the libraries and at different locations around town.
So I gotta keep it moving.
And
I'm
that's
sorry.
it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
No one online? Gail?
I'm Gail Heyer. I commend the committee, this is just an aside, for posting the minutes in a timely manner. It's super helpful when you can't come and you don't want to watch videos, so thank you for that. I'm here tonight to implore the school committee to implement a bell-to-bell no cell phone policy, and especially in the high school. Every time I search for news on this topic, I find encouraging data and stories of other schools. It's important to have the phones completely inaccessible and not just turned off. A 2020 study from Malaysia found that just the presence of a phone and high phone conscious thought when the study subjects reported thinking about their phones reduced the students' memory and recall, their memory, learning, and recall. In 2025, Spokane, Washington Public Schools banned phones. At the middle school, the percent of students involved in extracurricular activities jumped from 24% to almost 80%. In August 2025, the New York Times published a University of Pennsylvania professor's account of what happened when he made his college students put away cell phones and computers. The students' evaluations of his course were better than ever, even though he'd been teaching for 40 years. Same class, students were less distracted and more engaged. He felt this made them more attentive and satisfied with the learning. His experience comported with the available data that shows computers and cell phones, even when turned off, impact the quality of and satisfaction with person-to-person interactions. He believes that widely instituted bans on phones and computers in class would lead students to learn more from their classes, be more willing to speak their minds in class, be more at ease in their social interactions, and feel more fulfilled. Concord schools like to talk about students searching for belonging or a sense of belonging, and today they can just use their phones to make those social connections. Removing phones will better connect students to their community and improve their ability to learn. And just tacking on to what Kate was saying about experiencing moments together, put the phones away and people have to experience being together. So I don't know why Concord hasn't done this, and I hope we can do it as soon as possible. Thanks.
No one online?
No.
Connie?
Hi, I'm Connie Levine. I live on Stowe Street, and I'm here to talk about, I have been reading the articles in the paper, and I saw one that said, why don't you give us some advice instead of some criticism? So I'm here to give you some of my advice about what I think might help you. And I started thinking, I started this way back in the summer when we had the anti-Semitism meetings. So anyway, I looked up what Boston has, and they have a very good write-up of their non-discrimination and civil rights policies and what they do. And I think part of the problem that the people in the town are having is, I know you're doing a lot of stuff that's very good about, making people more aware, getting the kids involved, that's all great stuff. But I think what they're looking for in addition to that is something similar to this, like they could read about, what it says, the Boston Public School does not discriminate in its programs, facilities, or employment or educational opportunities on the basis of race, color, age, criminal record, disability, pregnancy, homelessness, sex, gender identity, religion, national origin, ancestry, sexual orientation, genetics, or military status, does not tolerate any form of retaliation or bias-based intimidation, threat, or harassment that demeans individuals' dignities or interferes with their ability to learn or work. And this covers the employees too. And it says, students and staff who violate the non-discrimination policy may be subject to discipline up to and including expulsion for students or dismissal for staff. And they have all kinds of subsections where they talk about it. And so I think if there was actually something that the townspeople knew that you had and said, okay, this is it. And then, when people like Michael want to know, okay, well, can you tell us, like, there's this thing going on? You can take the information and just, without, revealing anyone who it is or anything, but you can report, like, and the town can see, okay, well, we had, 2 problems about religion or national origin, they can just say, okay, well, and they can see, is it a problem? Is it going down? Is it getting, so you can report to them, satisfy them, let the students and, the workers and everybody know these are the policies and we're gonna implement them. We're following our policies. I think having that is critical to people stop saying, well, what's going on? Is it still happening? You just get the data and you can present it in a way that, won't be a problem for you in terms of disclosure. And they also have this
Thanks, Connie.
thing about inclusion that was good, I thought. So I just wanted to say that maybe if you go a little further and get something like that, you'd get less
Can
resistance.
you email those to the school committee?
Yeah, you can have these, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I'll give them to you, yeah. And I also had another thing about Maslow that I'll give you. It just shows that safety is down the bottom of the thing, so you gotta get them up. So, and this thing about how you can use it in education.
Thank you.
But I'm happy to hand these all in to you. Thanks.
Right. No one else online?
I'll just give them to you now so I don't forget.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, yeah.
All right, that will conclude public comment. Right, on to the consent agenda. I didn't get any questions and Sandeep, I'm sorry, I keep looking up. I missed you the first time, but please chime in if you have any questions.
Oh, I will, thank you.
On the consent agenda, any questions or any motions?
I moved, oh, sorry. Were you gonna say something? I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, I guess we have to do roll call, correct? All right, Hurcheck, aye.
Morano, aye.
Bishardi, aye.
Rank and I.
Williams, aye.
All right. Correspondence in, I think you shared it.
Yep, and this is just for CPS. It was just one piece of follow-up email that actually you handled. So it was just follow-up to some questions, and Andrew sent that answer.
Great. All right, on to our discussion. Shelley.
So while I'll let her get your screen share, and then I'm gonna turn it over to you. Just to frame this while she's pulling up. We've got 2 slides that frame the conversation. We're not going through all the slides you received. Those will get linked tomorrow to the agenda. I think a high level conversation, there's some things we wanna celebrate in this slide deck tonight and the data we're looking at and discussing out of CPS. There's areas of growth, we've talked about those achievement gaps and our work there and can certainly do the same again tonight. And we wanna just engage in a high level dialogue with you. There's more data here than you could be here all night if you went through each slide. So I'm gonna turn over to Shelley and we will go from there.
So this is really the same process that we had for a regional meeting and the same, we have the slides in the same format. And so we're just doing it for CPS now.
Slightly different format.
Slightly.
Slightly, yes. So I want to share about K-8. This is on MCAS and some of our internal screener assessments that we use to monitor student progress. At the highest level that Dr. Hunter shared about the last school committee meeting, CMS is being acknowledged for meeting pre-pandemic MCAS achievement levels. So there's a Celebrating Academic Success Conference coming up in December with the new commissioner. Overall, as you'll see in some of those slides, we continue to maintain high levels of achievement in all content areas, and we are ranked, within the top 10 for science, math, and ELA. Again, largely above state averages. Our science gains in grades 5 and 8, I think for the last 5 years, have steadily creeped back up. And also the same for ELA. So that's just really to celebrate and acknowledge the work of our educators. And as I shared, I think the last time I was here talking about MCAS, I really do think, just to reiterate that teaching looks very different, I think even just from 2019. And the world has changed, technology has changed, instruction and student attention. So I think we have to just be mindful of those things. I think DESE does want to promote this idea of where we were back prior to the pandemic, but I don't think it's our sole benchmark. It's not necessarily something that is the sole goal of what we do. And again, one of my slides talks about how all of these data points are really, again, high level. And so they give us a direction of trends, where we're going, how our students are doing in a snapshot of time. But as you know, in our schools, with our educators, at our building levels, we are constantly looking at student data, but we are looking a lot at qualitative data about our students, who they are, their experiences, and thinking about, as a team, how do we support and promote their engagement, their joy, and their learning overall. And again, we're not just shaping academic minds, we're shaping the minds of young people to be young citizens, who contribute to the world. Just like when we think about the Civics Action Project, about what they can do for themselves, others, and the community. So those are some of the measures that we continually to think about in terms of also the other surveys and kind of focus group work we've done, or just conversations and things that we do on a daily basis. As I've shared, and as Dr. Hunter has shared, we do know and acknowledge achievement gaps, particularly with our subgroups, and particularly for Black students and other historically marginalized groups. We've seen the trends within math and STEM not be as strong in terms of closing some of those gaps compared to the humanities and ELA. So one thing that I think we are thinking about too is looking at those screeners. What is the most useful tools to really support students, support educators with the information they need, like that just-in-time data. So for example, K-5, we've adopted the DIBELS assessments for some of the literacy and foundational skills you need. Last year it was K-3, now we've adopted it K-5. EL education, as you know, our new ELA curriculum is something that is focused on a quality curriculum that is rigorous. It is a heavy lift, but it really does even the playing field to a degree, because we are asking all kids to think critically, rigorously, with some pretty strong and rigorous mid-unit and end-of-unit assessments and performance tasks. So as our schools, elementary schools, continue to adopt that and learn and grow with that, it's really for them to understand where students are and where we need to think about intervention, and our WIN block, which is our kind of flex block, intervention block that we use to think about those individual needs. And that work is happening throughout all of our curriculum. So EL and ELA is a big focus this year, but we're going to start looking at math curriculum and instruction and assessment, and do a curriculum review. Start with the needs assessment process and think about that over the next several years, about what that means for high quality instruction, the coherence and alignment of the curriculum and the materials, and then think about that coherence from all of our grade bands across K-12. And then of course that wellness, self-advocacy, and the inclusion and ensuring that students feel like they belong in this community is a lot through our SEL work, responsive classroom, open circle, DEIB committees, and so much happening also at the middle school around so much of what they do, like around very student-centered voice and home base and playbook and some other work. So this again is high level. It does not get into the weeds of all the different strategies that we're thinking about and the work we have to do to collaborate and support kids.
So just as you start your discussion, the principals are online, Angel's there. It looks like our METCO staff is also here, our METCO leaders, so lots of folks here to help answer questions, not just me and Shelley.
Yeah.
And we're happy to give you the time.
Great. Sandeep, you want to start us off?
Sure, thank you. So first of all, thank you for all of the work that went into compiling this data. I know I sent over a bunch of questions. I do want to frame those as, you know, as me not having seen this data before. So some of the data that you present is not quite so obvious to me. I want to ask maybe about the DIBELS and the STAR scores, right? First of all, there was no breakdown by any subgroup. Would you elaborate on why that is the case?
I could have. I thought that it was more important to just use it or to demonstrate that we use this, and a lot of our educators are right here. They really are the ones that are using this data. They're looking at it from their lens to think about their kids in front of them daily. Those are formative assessments that is sort of that just-in-time, real-time data that educators use at the classroom level, at the grade level band, in data meetings. And they're talking about students, they're talking about that growth, and where they're talking about who might need intervention. What does that look like? What kind of the cycles look like? And how can we move kids? And talk about them as a learner, right? That profile of a learner, to see what will work, what will not work, and the support staff that they have. So it really is this collaborative effort on each and every student. But it's not something that I think we as a district or at this level, I think need to necessarily look at in terms of those gaps or those, like, based on the breakdown. We do know we have those gaps in areas. We've talked about it even at the kindergarten level, where some kids just have different skill sets and backgrounds and what that means. So those happen on a daily basis, and I do think that equity and understanding students' identities are a large part of the conversation.
And Shelley, that's a great point, and I think that's where I want to focus the next question on, which is, you know, the statistics per subgroup and all is great, but are we, what kind of internal data are we using to I guess grow the cohorts as they, you know, go from elementary school to middle school and then the high school? Because again, this is just me looking at it in at a very high level. The gaps appear to be lower in the high school. Is that something that is borne out by the data, or is that just, you know, that specific cohort had a I guess lower gaps to start with? Would you be able to shed some light on that?
Sorry, I couldn't hear the first part, so.
Yeah, so I'll went on rambling for a bit. Let me just ask you, how are we using the data that we do have to make sure that there is growth in the subgroups that we are, I guess, not necessarily tracking statistics for?
Right. Again, I think we are building out open architects as a data system that every educator has access to. I think we have been looking at that more at the district and the school level. So that's something we've been looking at for at the upper grades, at the middle school with department chairs. And then we've done some of that work at the elementary level with the admin teams and some of the teacher leaders, and technology specialists have been a part of that. It is somewhat of a slow process to make sure that when you think about cohorts, it becomes more informative or something we can see trends as students continue through their career. And we know, particularly at the early years, as much as we expect certain types of growth or outcome, K1, 2, we know that learning has a trajectory that can look very different for different students. That doesn't mean that we are not trying to always teach to grade level standards and have the highest level of rigor and expectation, and we want all students to grow and learn. But it's hard to always have those early grade teachers look at that trend data on cohorts, because there is significant growth, particularly from just one school year from the beginning of the school year to the end of the school year. So they're really looking at that mostly. And then we know there's always somewhat of a summer slide, a little bit of a summer dip, so you start a little bit again in the fall to do some review. And we continue again to progress monitor. And I think every educator is doing that at every data team, grade level, with their admin team, with literacy specialists, with the APs, for every academic area that we can.
May I?
Please.
So I guess I'm trying to get the takeaway on this data presentation that at one point we score well in the state, we lead the state, or near the top according to data, and that's certainly something to be lauded.
Yeah.
And putting this information together is really quite hopeful, but I'm left with some questions. When I look specifically, at least in the slide pack that you provided for us, at slides 20 and 21, and this is looking at ELA performance, grades 3 to 5 and grades 6 to 8. 3 to 5 important because you're learning to read there as we go forward. 6 to 8 and beyond, you're reading to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And just looking at that and going back to the DESI data, I see that if you look at our all comers, grades 3 to 8, low income, if you sum together the 2020 and 2025, low income ELA grade 3 to 8, average for grades 3 to 8, 65% were not proficient in ELA. And this is looking at the DESI MCAS data. If you look at Black students, and this is speaking to the issue with our subgroups, which is it seems real. 2024, 2025, if you look at the Black students in grades 3 to 8, 61% of them are not proficient. Now, we understand that there are a lot of societal factors that Weston performed better in those parameters, Hingham performed better in those parameters, Hopkinton performed better in those parameters for those groups. I would like to see in this information and help us to understand how we're taking that information and putting it back into the classroom so that when we look at this in 2026 and 2027 and beyond, that we're seeing an improvement in this. Help us understand for the community and for our committee how we're using that data to fuel that.
Yeah, I'm gonna hop in for a minute. I think there's two buckets of an answer there. One is tier 1, which is our core instruction. We knew we needed to look at English language arts. EL is in its first pilot year. Absolutely, one of our biggest missions of bringing in a common program across all the schools was to address exactly the data you're naming. I think when you look at middle school, like the bumps we saw in math there, we were able to put in a consistent high quality math program. And now we're in year two or so of all grades, and we saw those scores start to reflect that. I think as EL takes hold and we get through next year with the second year of implementation, it absolutely is providing a common experience for all kids. And I think what we're gonna get more facile at is how to keep kids in the grade level material while we work on the gaps that they have. I think it's gonna be a little bit of an art form and we're not there yet, but I think that's gonna be some of the goal is that the rigor stays high while we work on decoding, for example, and try to navigate the balance of those two things. And we can already feel right now it feels like tension because we're trying to figure out how to do both. We're in a program we're just learning. But I think that's gonna be a big outcome there. I think on the other side, the category of our subgroups are small. We have this gift of being able to look at individual students. And that's where we spend most of our time. We look at profiles, we look at formative data. Dibbles and STAR is all formative data. That's data we're using to guide instruction, identify interventions, progress monitor. We're watching for those gaps on a continual all the time basis. When it's not working, we pivot and try something else. So that's the gift we have of our subgroups overall being small enough that we are able to really hone in and tackle this, not just at the big core level, but at a very individual level. And I think, just for point of reference, like a lot of those subgroups, kids are in multiple groups all at once. And so sometimes we're seeing those profiles extend over multiple groups, and the work is all about one kid who may be looking, showing up at a data point multiple times. So sometimes I think it exaggerates the way it feels a little bit, not that I'm diminishing it, it's work we care very, very much about. But tier one, individual intervention, I think those are what's gonna keep us moving forward.
Is there a concept of, do we see a path of how we're moving forward? And can that be painted for us so that we can understand and we can pass on to the community?
Yeah, I'm sure everyone who's on, my whole team, should chime in. We know with the early reading, it's about getting those phonetic, evidence-based science of reading, pick all the words you want to use to it to make sure that they can decode. And we know, I think EL has really helped us to understand the background gaps that we needed to fill and expose all kids to the same high level of text. Both of those are actively working all the time. And once we get EL fully implemented, those will be working for all kids all the time. I think one of our strengths is our ability to identify students with data that shows us, I mean, DIBELS is 5 different subtests on the core skills of learning to read. So we might be intervening on phonemic awareness while we're working on higher level comprehension at the same time. So that's the juggling act we're working on, and I think the profile of the student is what's outlining our path.
And the EL rollout, so it's a 2-year rollout.
Right.
And what percentage of teachers are rolling it out this year?
Yeah, it's a little different.
70.
It's about
Okay.
75.
So 75%
Yeah.
this year,
It's a
so we
high
should see some
percentage.
significant gains this year. But then I think about, you know, DIBELS.
Well,
and-
there is, I just wanna share that
Yeah.
sometimes when you start a new
Yeah,
curriculum,
it's-
it takes a bit for educators to, and students, right, especially if you're
Yeah.
a
This is a
5th
beast.
grade
Yes.
educator
Definitely.
teaching EL and those students didn't come up with those
Yeah.
routines and practices. It's a very specific way and approach to teaching with language dives and just kind of new terminology that students have to get used to first, and that the pacing is particularly challenging, especially when you're learning the design and architecture of any new program. It is hard, and that's the work of educators now. We've got a lot of coaching happening. Professional learning is really predominantly focused on this support. And then really what we're thinking about is, again, high quality instruction is always tier one. When we say tier one, that's what we mean. And what does that look like in terms of culturally responsive pedagogy? What does it look like in terms of inclusion? This is why we're talking about UDL and scaffolds and thinking about how do we maintain the rigor and make sure that students have multiple means to access that rigor. And that those scaffolds are scaffolds that you just use for a while as students internalize those new processes and procedures, but that then they can do those skills and access those skills and acquire them on their own. And that does take time for us to build that instructional vision that follows students K-12. So that is something that I firmly believe in, is that the number one X factor is always gonna be the teaching in the classroom and the educators and the support we provide them and the collaboration time that they have, because teaching is not a single, not just solely in your classroom. It really is a learning endeavor and an effort that takes the entire community and the entire building and the district support to provide that, so that they can really understand the impact that they're having on kids, but also supporting students when they have misconceptions or misunderstandings or gaps skills are not being addressed. So it's not a silver bullet, but it is the ongoing work of making sure that teaching and learning are at the core of what we do and what we focus on.
And certainly like the MCAS data is one piece of it, but then you're doing DIBELS 3 times a year? Three times a year, and STARS is twice a year.
Yeah.
So through all that time, teachers are, I mean, they have a lot of information.
Right, and the
all the work
math
that they're doing,
assessments, and then there are the curriculum assessments as well.
Yeah, so
And
then
there's
you have the
also like-
interventions in between time to see the growth throughout the year. So like, while I always appreciate
a
MCAS data.
well-rounded education too,
Yeah.
so they need the
Right.
arts, they need all of that supports them in their learning.
I guess at the end of the day, though, what I think is important for us as a committee and for us as a community to understand that with everything that we're putting in place, all the efforts, the MCAS data, the DESE data, the DIBELS data, the STAR data, that we are able to demonstrate over time that the gaps we see in our subgroups are diminishing over time. I think that's the proof of the pudding. And I think that's something that we owe to our community to look for, to get reported to us in a transparent fashion so that we can understand what direction that we're moving. That's the takeaway I want from this presentation. That's the takeaway I want to see as we look at the next iteration, because we're gonna be around for a little while, so we want to see that. We need to see that for our students, for our community.
It's like Justin Sparks wants to say something. Justin, come on, camera.
Hello, good evening.
Hi.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Just wanted to comment on the data piece, thinking about the MCAS and the STAR and the DIBELS. Our teachers are, really diving into the data this year as we meet, multiple times over the course of the month in data teams to review. And while the MCAS gives us one snapshot sort of at the end of the year as students are moving on, Tracy, I think you mentioned that DIBELS gives us that in the moment sort of formative information that we use to adapt instruction. We've been really good at picking up deficits in those foundational skills and decoding early and providing the intervention they need, as early as October or November. And it's a 6 to 8 week intervention, and then they're moved on, they're back into the tier 1. It's looking at the MCAS scores reading where we noticed a little bit of a dip. We're looking at the deficits in comprehension, right, and in the writing piece. And to Lori's point earlier, the significant financial piece that allowed us to get this wonderful program along to add to the Heggerty, the foundations, and the geodes, those foundational pieces, the knowledge building piece, and the team at Thoreau, and I know at Willard and Alcott too, spent some time today working with our EL coach on looking at the assessment from Module 1 and really diving into the celebrations of growth, but the celebrations we have and also the areas of growth. So it's allowing us to see trends across the grade level, and especially with our subgroups, and identifying areas for comprehension and for writing that need to be remedied. So we're working on those for the next couple of weeks and months, and we expect to see a jump because of the EL program in MCAS as we head into the spring.
Thanks, Justin. Matt? Here he is. Still on mute.
Sorry about that. I just wanted to follow up with what Justin was saying, and also Shelley and Lori's comments earlier, just about how I've had the good fortune of being in the district now for 9 years and seeing the robust development of our MTSS system with regular data meetings across all grade levels, strong tier 1 instruction, tier 2, tier 3, where we have very capable, skilled specialists working in math and in ELA. And we have established data points. We look at the data and then we target interventions based on gaps. And then we look at whether it's an increase of the frequency, the intensity, or the duration of those MTSS groupings, and keeping a very close eye on student performance and growth. So there's always room for us to continue to do the work, but I'm very happy to say over my 9 years with the district, I've seen a considerable investment and success with our MTSS programming and the support of students who have demonstrated gaps. So just wanted to add my clarifying comments to Justin and Shelley and Lori, what they were mentioning earlier.
Go for it.
I just have a couple of comments. Thank you, Shelley. I know this takes a lot of work, so thanks for pulling it all together. One, I just wanted to comment that there's so much data like in this, and then also outside of this. I mean, even like Tracy, you were talking about like Dibbles and Star, but how those get taken 3 times a year of every student, but then our highest need students, there's data on them like weekly. I mean, you see it, you're constantly tracking the progress of I see the district constantly tracking the progress of kids. So there's just a ton of data tracking, which I think is terrific. To your point about, we're gonna be here for a while, and I want to, this is how, I wanna have this conversation again. That reminded me of several years ago, this is my 4th year, and several years ago, we were having a very lengthy conversation about how middle school math was not where we wanted it to be, and it was at like 50% of kids were proficient, and it was really concerning across the district. And it was like a long conversation over the course of a year, and over that time period, Dr. Hunter and Kristen at the time brought in a new math curriculum, talked a lot about why they would do it, and now the data has completely shifted. So I think that longevity over time in these conversations actually is really important. So I appreciate that perspective of watching things change over time. And number 3, to that same point, I actually agree with you that there is certainly a lot of growth to be made and had and gaps to be closed. And I was really happy to see that in the comparative, it was just 24 to 25, there was growth between 3 to 5 and 6 to 8. So it does look like, even though in the subgroups, so it does look like to me, even though there is still a lot of work to be doing, we are making progress between 3 to 5 and 6 to 8, which it's not, the work's not done. There's still a lot of work to do, but to your point, I think that we're moving in the right direction, which does feel promising. Those are my 3 points.
And even just, I love to talk about middle school math, but you did a great job, and I think it was the team at the middle school and most likely the math department, I have to assume it's the math department at the middle school, looking at even down to the MCAS questions and what material was being covered or wasn't being covered, and realizing that, oh my gosh, we didn't get to this part, or, depending on when MCAS is offered, that can absolutely happen. So, we have the data, but then there's the analysis done by the teachers that are teaching in each individual classroom. So I certainly appreciate using the data to figure out where's the issue, and let's see what we can do. So,
Yeah,
and that, again, that's where the ongoing continuous efforts are there, because for example, at the middle school, we are, irrespective of some growth, there's always more to do.
Yes.
And we know those gaps have existed, and that we do need to give every student access and opportunity. So that requires us to continually think about what that looks and sounds like within every classroom, really calibrate against that. And for example, the middle school is doing some instructional coaching work to really just refine what's their vision of what every classroom should look and sound like in terms of expectations. That's where we see some really great expectations that are within the EL education curriculum, that every there's a learning target for every lesson, and it really is explicit, and it's centered on the student's voice of, at the end of this lesson, like, what's the objective, what will I learn, what are we trying to target, what are we trying to hit? So those things are all happening in the middle school now about what every student should be experiencing across every content area. And then we are also then, particularly for math, because those have been stubborn gaps. Math, we are doing some work between the middle and high school department chairs and teams and doing some learning walks to think about when students move up, how are we supporting them? What does really high quality instruction look like at the middle and high school? And what do we need kids to be prepared for by 9th grade? So those 9th grade teachers then are talking to the 8th grade teachers, and we need to continue to bring that down all the way to K and pre-K.
I got 2 more hands up. Justin, you can unmute. Thanks for coming back, Justin.
Of course. Thank you, Shelley, for speaking so well about the middle school math department. The historical perspective, though, that I think it was Carrie or somebody was just talking about, Tracy especially, I guess I just want to remind the committee, we unleveled in math now 5 years ago. And we've only seen an increase in our data. And around the 5 years ago, we also built in an MTSS flex intervention enrichment block that gives the students an opportunity to be in front of their licensed math teacher for intervention if that's what the data suggests. For a lot of secondary schools, will offer a tier 2 intervention, not always with the licensed math teacher or ELA teacher, but sometimes with a special education teacher or otherwise. So just looking back at 5 years of decisions that were made under Lori's tenure, but also decisions that were very much supported by the committee as well. Wanted to offer that perspective.
I totally forgot about that, Justin. I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, that was a huge shift at the middle school, and it all happened in 2020, like in the middle of COVID. So thank you for bringing that back up about the math.
Sandeep?
And so, can you hear me? I can hear myself.
Yep.
All right, okay. So, this data does give us a lot to be proud of, and this chart that you're sharing right now, the identified areas for improvement, I think it gives me a lot of hope. As Michael pointed out, as Kelly pointed out, we've seen this being tracked over multiple years. So, looking forward to more work in these areas, and I'm Shelley, again, thank you so much for all of the work you've put behind this. Excited for the work ahead.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sandeep.
Thank you.
Everyone good? I think he closed it out nicely.
Yeah.
Thanks.
As always.
Thank you, and thanks to all the administrators that came online to contribute. Appreciate it. All right. Bob, capital plan.
Okay, I'm gonna project. I also have, we have our facilities director, Tim Shudo, listening in online in case there's
I'm
any.
gonna promote him in case he needs to answer.
So in terms of our plan, we just our process to start off with. You might recall we had a study done a little over 2 years ago from GRLA Architects that provided us a lot of data on each of our buildings, including Ripley and the 3 elementary schools. The middle school was obviously outside the scope given it was going to be replaced. So we relied and looked back at that report to develop our plan last year as we built this year's plan. We looked at last year's projects. We also met with, I talked to our facilities director, Tim, and his team, our technology director, principals were given sheets to kind of share projects they had on the radar, and then the athletic director. So it was a pretty thorough process. We then looked at it, made some decisions on what to prioritize, listening to a lot of the input we received from folks. But we're also mindful of some of the constraints that the town of Concord has, and wanted to prioritize those things that we thought were most important and necessary. I will also note that the Ripley building, you'll see as you look down, most of those projects are pushed out 5 years. We are only prioritizing things at Ripley that we think absolutely need to be done. There are some things that were recommended by the consultants that we don't necessarily think we have to do. So there is
Can I just add to that?
Yeah.
That's not because we don't care about what happens here. There's a bigger picture discussion going on at the town level.
Yeah.
So rather than sink more money into this when there's exploration of what the options are, that's what makes more
And
sense.
I provided lots of clarity to the land use working committee subcommittee on consolidation. And sorry, it's a lot of words in there. And I was very adamant that we're not looking to do anything at Ripley. We're not looking to ask for any money at Ripley. If something breaks, we're gonna fix it, but that's pretty much where Ripley stands. Only because we're assessing every building in town to see if there's any type of consolidation that could happen.
With the acknowledgement this building's at end of life, I
It's
think
at end
there's
of life.
common agreement of that.
Yes.
So the plan here is, we were asked last year, it's the first time to do a multi-year plan. It was a 10-year plan. So what we're presenting here is individual years for the first 5 years, and then after 5 years, to be honest, it's a little bit hard to predict which year something's gonna be needed. So we bucketed years 6 through 10 into one category. In terms of what we're requesting for next year, which is ultimately what the finance committee will vote on, and the school committee will approve. Well, actually, I guess you vote on the whole plan, but I'll kind of go through by building. We have catch basin repairs at Alcott, a little bit of crumbling around the grates for drainage that don't want to turn into a bigger issue. That's $20,000. We have a building management system that's past end of life, and we will not be able to run our HVAC system in an automated fashion if we don't replace that next year. So that's a high priority item. A projector at the Alcott Auditorium we're replacing. There's at Thoreau, glycol mixing tank. That's a fluid that kind of, it's an antifreeze material to prevent our pipes from breaking. We need to get a new tank. Thoreau's floor scrubber is I think 15 to 20 years old, well past end of life. They've been scraping by with it, and it's time that we get them a new one. At Willard, we have an auditorium sound system. The components are no longer, components are obsolete. The ones we need to replace, we need to get a newer version. And so in the core system itself, the controller, I believe needs to be replaced as well. So that's an estimate of $40,000. We may get a little bit more of a specific number there, but as of now, that's a placeholder estimate. There are some building exterior specific spots that were identified by the consultants. Let me see what they say here.
Tim, that's around the windows, right? Do you all know Tim Shudo? There he is on screen. Tim's done an excellent job taking over as director of facilities.
Building facade, some of masonry, and
Yeah, it's around the
some
windows.
joints for the windows as well. And we have a stainless steel sander that we use, spread sand and salt, typically more often. That's 20 plus years old, rusting. We're spending a couple thousand to repair it every year. It's now time to get something new. The office equipment is copiers. We got into a cycle where we had an aging fleet of copiers. We replaced some last year. These amounts will allow us to do, it's about $16,000 a copier, 2 more next year, 1 in 26 and 1 in 29, and then we're on more of a regular replacement cycle. This will kind of get us off the backlog of units that aren't being covered by vendors. They won't cover them on a service plan. We have to pay for service as units are breaking. So we want to get onto a service plan and with more up-to-date units, copiers. The last one is the touchscreens, the video boards. We want to go to touchscreen technology across K to 6 and K to 5, excuse me. And we worked with the IT director to get a cost estimate. It's about $4,000 installed per unit. We're projecting that we could do, if you think about our grades, we have typically four sections per grade per elementary school. So 12 sections by 3 grades is 48 units we would do in FY27 and then 48 units in FY28. That would get all of the classrooms replaced in 2 years. It wouldn't necessarily cover, like if we had a specialist space, but it would get all the core classrooms done.
Can't forget the preschool. These projectors are over 10 years old, probably 15 in most cases. It's overdue. So we're hopeful we can support doing this in a fairly efficient, 2 years feels efficient to me given the price tags. But I think we're on borrowed time. They're breaking one at a time and we're subbing in stuff, but it's impacting instruction. The quality is not what it needs to be.
Do you have to pay for disposal of these things?
I'm not certain on that.
You buy new ones,
I do know
Yeah,
that this,
Peter's got vendors that take care of the recycling for us.
in some cases, we get money back for Concord Public Schools. It goes to the town as miscellaneous revenue if there's some value to it. I know computers, we do get money back. I don't know about the screens.
Can you just talk about the process of you had a group come in and they assess everything from a light fixture to a board to a roof to how often do they come in and when's this study from?
Studies from 2 years ago.
Yep.
They came in, well, it was once, but it was over 3 to 6 month period, multiple times. Looked at, they break it into categories like HVAC, electricity, plumbing, the building envelope, whatever they call that. And so they do it by category, and then within each category, they have pictures in their reports on spaces that they, to show us what the issue is.
Yeah.
So when we look at these, this report, if we don't remember, I can look at the picture and some of the items we looked at, and I will not just make an example, we don't, like the doors and locks, they have a number out in the future that's a big number, and we don't need to look at doors and locks, they're fine. So like some of these things we're not gonna do. Some of these things, like they had lighting, a lot of lighting replacement that we've already done, like I was talking to Tim, we've already done like 80% of Alcott into LED or 75%, so we don't need to do all of that, there's a little bit less left.
So this is a 500K is less than our historical average, certainly less than what we're projecting in the future. Just being cognizant of the macro environment and just going in low.
If I can just interject on the historical perspective, the town of Concord used to give us $950 every year. It was just 900, sorry. I upped it. It was 900 standard every year, and then they would come up with what would go into capital to get to the 900, and now they've really cut it to really what we really just absolutely just
Yeah,
needs.
and that's town-wide, right?
Yeah,
So
because the
this
town's
makes
asked
sense.
us to do that,
So a couple other thoughts. One is this is all tier 1. Which is good news because the numbers aren't that big. The bad news is they're not gonna wanna borrow that. So I think we're trying to be mindful of that. I think the other thing I wanna make sure we name, there's some bigger cost items coming down the pike. Paving across all of the schools and the roofs across all of the schools. Our intention and recommendation to all of you, barring catastrophe, is we hold out as long, the roofs will be LMSBA eligible potentially for support from the state. You have to have a 30-year-old building to qualify.
These are the elementary schools.
All 3 elementary schools. So because you're years shy, 5 whatever years shy of that, our recommendation is to try to hold out so that you can apply for MSBA. We can apply for MSBA and try to get some state subsidy for the bigger ticket projects. They will not support paving. And then I think the third thing is we still have more campus improvements to do. Alcott absolutely is next on the list. I'm gonna ask you to consider a CPC grant for Alcott this in the fall of '26 when it comes due. and start to think the way we did at Thoreau. Naomi and I have already talked on who can we tap for some private playground fundraising, but so we're trying to tackle this as different directions and not just come to the town with these big asks.
Yeah, I think it's a good plan.
So
I just have a question on costs.
Yeah.
And I did not go back and compare this to the original, but have these been updated based on like current expenses, or is this the same price that they gave us a couple of years ago?
Some of these are the same prices.
Okay.
Like if they're further out, we didn't necessarily do any, we didn't do any research to get a quote or anything. Some of them have been updated based on newer information.
Okay.
Typically most of the stuff in 27, I will say we don't know the cost of the building management system. We have an estimate from the consultants. We did replace another one, so we have a good idea of what that is. But so I'd say it's a mix.
Okay, but you feel confident that the like the $500,000 total would cover all of these projects?
Yeah, I feel confident.
The asset, I had a commission for our condo once, and they bake in inflation for the later years, which is smart.
Oh, interesting, like
No.
in a capital project?
In there, so you'll get a 15-year
From the
plan,
consultants.
everything will be there. And they know in 10 years your boiler needs, so they will take today's boiler price,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
they
yeah,
have a lot of data on, and they will inflation adjust it 10 years out.
So they
That's
did that for things that are years out.
Yeah, that's what I'm
That's
saying.
already in our
Okay,
numbers.
so that
Yeah.
was,
Yeah,
that
I don't
makes
know
sense.
what
Okay.
inflation number they figured, and it's a Wild West, so but
Yeah,
like
yeah,
it's
it is
one
a
of
Wild
those.
West.
That report is in the drive, I'll link it into the packet, but I just looked at it last week.
Yeah,
Because of
no,
the
it-
land use committee.
certainly available to.
Yeah, and it's like it's hundreds of pages on
Oh, yeah,
literally
yeah, every detail, yeah.
So I mean, we need to go out to bid. So some of these, when I look through this list, I'm not concerned, but the only one I would have any hesitation about is the building management system, but it's a pretty big number. We might be able to get more information about that before our capital plan's officially approved. But like, we know what the IT items cost, Peter, that's recent information. We know what copiers have, that's recent information, we know what the sander is. So a lot, like, I'm in pretty good shape on most of these. I would also add we talked about the roof. We had Thoreau in our plan last year for $250,000. We were thinking maybe there's a liquid application that kind of seals above the roof, and that, as they did the research, turned out to not be an option. So we have a $250,000 capital item from last year that we're not going to spend right now. The estimate to do what we would really need to do now is closer to $1 million, but we've made patch repairs to address the core issues we were having last winter, and it's been
Still from the fire? Or is this-
no, this is in a different section.
Yeah. That's brand new.
Well, that was,
So I think we're in better shape and Thoreau than we were last year with the work that's been done to patch things.
Definitely.
So that's just floating out there as something that we'll talk about with the town on what do we do in this case. We have $250,000. We want to wait to we're MSBA eligible.
Right. Michael, did you have a question?
I guess
Yeah, I got it.
where Ripley is at end of life, where are we looking in terms of throwing good money after bad, and how to consider the facilities that are necessary in this building that may not be able to be here? Where is that in this capital?
It's actually sitting
That
over with
sits
the
right with the
town
land use
right
committee
now.
in the
Yeah.
town, and so
Yeah.
some of the options are, and I will always fight for the preschool, I'll just say that. Some of the options are like, if we moved all the people in Ripley, and like, let's talk about central office first, to an office building with other town offices, if they were to purchase a building, lease a building, what would that look like? So I sit on the committee, and every single time, like, we have an integrated preschool, we need outdoor space. Like, it's not just people and how much square footage, it's kids that are here and what the needs of kids, and it is mandated to have outdoor space, and so those are certainly discussions our group should finish at the end of the year. We just finished Q1, so there's a report to the select board from Q1, but there's just a lot of discussion about what's gonna happen in the future, so.
I mean, knowing what I know about what we did for a lease for pathways, I mean, if it was not the preschool, finding space for our staff would probably not be, finding the actual space would be the challenge, but the cost wouldn't be the challenge. It's the preschool.
The preschool is it would be
And before you ask, there really isn't room at the elementaries, and the scale of having it in one place with service providers and proximity is valuable. I don't think splitting it up and putting it out in the elementaries is an option, given
I know this
where we
isn't a
are.
land use meeting, but could you put an addition on any of those 3 schools? Or this is probably a question for another time.
The land use committee is considering everything, and what I brought up last week that wasn't really part of the discussion would be to have like a preschool campus. Like, I mean, something could be built on this site, much like we did the model of all the schools, is you could build another building on this site and have like a preschool campus and then import this building, but that wasn't really one of the options, but I just thought it was a creative option that we could talk about right out there.
In the interest of time, Sandeep, do you wanna wrap us up?
Thank you. So Tracy, I love that idea of a preschool campus. If we need to make a public statement somewhat, I'm happy to do that. So question about the billing management system. With any new system, are we taking into account whatever training needs to be provided for? Yeah, I guess any updated systems.
Yes, and that would be, Tim would work with the vendors to coordinate that.
Right.
Typically, we'd receive that with the implementation. I don't think that the systems are drastically different from systems that we have in other buildings. They might be different. There might be some new differences, obviously, but the general logic of them is pretty similar.
Excellent.
New firmware.
All right. Thank you.
Tim, thanks for joining. Appreciate it.
So we got clarification this week that we're meeting with the select board and finance committees together on December 8th. We are not meeting with them tomorrow on this, and that will be where we start to consolidate plans with what the town's requests are.
I saw Pat on earlier, so they at least know directionally what we're putting through, so that's good.
Yeah, so that's helpful, I think.
Yeah.
Can I just say too, that the maintenance job's done a good job maintaining this building, like this
Yes.
building works right now, so there's a long-term issue there, but in the short term, this building works fine.
I'm sure the preschool teachers wish it was a little fancier. We're gonna get
We do have the mural.
Yeah, we do at least have a mural on here for them, so get to that in a minute.
Yeah. That December
Perfect
8th,
segue.
I know.
that December 8th meeting, that's select board, FinCom, and school committee.
Yes.
Right, before the Ripley's, we should talk about first quarter.
Wait, when is that,
Budget
December
transfer.
8th?
December 8th.
Can you share that quickly?
Yeah, just highlight.
So I'm gonna, so it's obviously it's early in the year. There's not a lot of surprises to report. And so the 69,000 that's in yellow is just the additional money we get for McKinney-Vento homeless transportation reimbursement that the town appropriated to us at town meeting in addition to our core budget. That's what that figure is. We transfer between different accounts to cover some things that have come up. We have a little bit of favorability in maintenance for middle school electricity is running a little under budget. We also have some vacancy savings for custodian. Oh, I didn't, sorry.
No. Oops, it's a lot of numbers for somebody without this page in front of them.
Okay, there it is. So the maintenance, some of that, those transfers will be used up when we have a position that we just filled, and so salary's not encumbered yet. In the instructional leadership category, we had 2 special ed administrators that we hired. We also eliminated an ELA teacher upon retirement, so those kind of go against each other. We also anticipate some savings in supplies and materials as the year goes on. We typically see that. But in total, we feel like we're in a decent position this year, better than we were certainly in the past couple of years, and we're gonna continue to look for opportunities in the budget to save and but not stop our administrators and their staff from executing their plans. What I would need from the school committee on this is approval of the transfer and adjustment column. And we do that on a quarterly basis. It's kind of typically viewed as best practice for school committees.
I move that we approve the transfers adjustments as stipulated in the CPS FY 25 budget status report dated November 14th, 2025.
Second.
All those in favor?
Nope.
Oh, yep, roll call.
Roll call.
Hurcheck, aye.
Morano, I.
Bishardi, aye.
Rankin, I.
Williams, aye.
Thanks, Bob. Good. Last but not least, and I gave a little background on this on the AO, and I guess Lori, you are gonna present on the mural.
So I'm doing this on behalf of the preschool PTG and teaching staff. And I was pretty excited to hear they had ideas how to brighten up this drab building, and bring some student-centered ideas to it. There's no financial ask here, the PTG's supporting that, but we can't do anything to a building you don't approve of. So these are the proposals. They went with a Eric Carle theme, doesn't get better than that. And they've got just different ideas of Eric Carle artwork. Of course, this building's so unique with all the different doorways and all of that. It's gonna just pop up at us as we turn corners and things, which will be great. Yeah, so I think this is just really exciting, and I love the creativity and glass half full mindset after we talk about the condition of the building. And we just wanted to get your approval tonight so they can keep the planning process going.
Do you know, do they have an artist or?
I don't have those details. I
Okay.
think it's pretty conceptual right now because they knew they needed your approval.
And I guess, you know, I have the benefit of going to some of those PTG meetings monthly. And the preschool PTG is always there, and then we have the Alpha PTG president who always talks about how important the preschool is. And I think it's just, it's important to acknowledge that we have this wonderful preschool at Ripley, even though the building might not be perfect. What they do inside those classrooms is amazing for our most vulnerable learners when they start here. And it's actually a very cost-effective preschool for a lot of our students. So I think we'd be remiss if we just didn't acknowledge the hard work that happens at the preschool, because it really is a gift.
It's wonderful. I love it.
Yeah.
I move to approve the mural for the Concord Integrated Preschool.
Second.
Okay, roll call. Hurcheck, aye.
Morano, I.
Bishardi, aye.
Rankin, I.
Williams, aye.
All right,
Thank you.
that is it. And we need to roll call it out?
Oh, never know.
We never know.
Technically, yes.
Yes, you do.
The remote.
I move to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Second, Hurcheck, aye.
Morano, I.
Bishardi, aye.
Rankin, I.
Williams, aye. Thank you.
That was weak.
That was very.
Yeah.